While the breaststroke kick gets all the love, if swimmers aren't successful and can't execute a great breaststroke pull, they're not going to swim as fast as they otherwise could. The pull is critical to creating speed in breaststroke, and in this video, I'm going to show you strategies that you can use to help your swimmers learn how to execute a great one. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. We're going to cover why the pull is so important. We're going to cover what a great breaststroke pull is. We're going to take a look at really successful swimmers in action. We're going to talk about the challenges of improving the pull. We're going to talk about solutions for improving the pull. And then we're going to go over some sets to show you examples of how to make it happen in practice. Let's check it out. So why does the pull matter? Well, it's 50% of the propulsion, and that's 50% of the speed. So it's a lot less than the other strokes, which can approach 80-90% of the propulsion, but it's still critical. If swimmers struggle to create propulsion with the pull, they're going to struggle to create speed and swim as fast as they otherwise could. Another important aspect is that breaststroke is already a pretty stop and go stroke. There's accelerations and then there's slowing. There's accelerations and then there's slowing. And every time swimmers slow down, obviously they're losing speed and they have to use a whole lot more energy to get back up to speed. If the pull is not nearly as effective as it could be, those drops in speed between each kick are going to be a lot higher, which means less speed, obviously, but it's going to make breaststroke a whole lot more fatiguing because swimmers have to create a lot more propulsion to get back up to speed. It's a lot more exhausting to be stop and go swimming as it is to swim the same speed or even a faster speed, but more consistently. And so without a great pull, not only are swimmers going to swim slower, but it's going to be a lot more difficult and a lot more exhausting, which means less endurance. And in both cases, that means slow swimming. So what makes a great breaststroke pull? There's two concepts that swimmers have to be really good at and they have to master in order to create a great pull. They have to be really patient and they have to be really aggressive. And so the challenge is it's very difficult to do both of those things at the same time. And that's why it's pretty difficult to swim fast breaststroke. So from a patience perspective, swimmers have to get wide to get great surface area. If they pull with the hands right in front of their face, they're not going to be able to get a great pull because they can't get the arm oriented in a way that allows them to move a lot of water backwards. And because the hands enter right in front of the face instead of wider in butterfly and freestyle, the pull takes more time than the other strokes. And it takes more time in particular to set up the stroke. And the swimmers have to go from right in front of the face to outside the shoulders, and that takes time. If swimmers rush that or they start pulling too soon, they're not going to be in the right position. If they rush the setup, the whole stroke's going to be wrecked because they're not going to be able to move water. They're not going to be in position to do so. And they have to be patient so they can get into position to use the hand and the form to move water. Then, once they are in position, they have to build pressure on the water fast, and they have to continue to build pressure throughout the pull. The pull is relatively short, so swimmers have to get on it right away, and they have to do so very aggressively after they've been patient. So that's where the challenge is they got to be patient with the setup, aggressive with the pull, and they're going to go back and forth between those two, and that's very difficult to do. Swimmers don't have time to get up to speed during the pull because it is shorter than the other strokes. They have to start applying pressure pretty aggressively once they're in position, and if they can do that, they're going to be able to create a lot of propulsion. So we have two very opposite concepts that need to coexist within the same pull. That's what can make breaststroke pulling pretty difficult to pull off successfully. So if we watch this swimmer here from the front, we can see the patience that's needed to set up the stroke. So she's pretty patient, and then she's in position, and now there's that acceleration through. And again, the arms are recovering, and they're entering right in front of the face, and then she's got to be patient and sliding things out, setting things out, and then once she's in position right about here, now you can see the acceleration of the arms. And so if she were to start pulling right away from this position, she's not going to be able to create much propulsion because her arms aren't where they need to be oriented backwards. So she's got to be patient and then set it up. And then right there, now she's going to be aggressive. She's going to start putting more pressure into the water, and that's going to allow her to pull more successfully and more effectively. So if we watch the swimmer here, he's not putting pressure on the water until right about there. And now he's in a position where you can see the forearms facing backwards, the hands are facing backwards, and then he's going to pull back, and that's going to create all that propulsion. So the motion right there is that strong pull backwards, which is going to get him to accelerate forwards and create a lot of propulsion, and that's going to help him effectively move the body down the pool. So again, it's a patient setup and then get in a position, and then he's going to pull back, and then he's going to let it rip. So in that respect, the breaststroke pull is similar to the other strokes, where you get a big surface area facing backwards, and then you pull it backwards, like right there, and that's where that patience with the setup, getting in position, and now he's going to be able to pull back. The one difference from breaststroke and the other strokes is that the arms aren't going to travel past the shoulders. So once he gets through the big part of the pull, then he's going to squeeze in as opposed to pulling back. And so when swimmers actually pull, that squeezing action is going to be the predominant feeling that they get. So it's more of a setup and then squeeze into the body. However, what's happening is he is pulling back, but it's going to feel more like a squeeze because, again, they're not pulling straight back down to the hips. They've got to pull in towards the back part of the pull in order to recover the arms. Patience with the setup and then applying pressure and squeezing into the body. So another swimmer here, you can see she's going to be a little bit more patient with the setup, getting those arms facing backwards, and then boom, squeezing back, squeezing in, and then recovering straight forward. So again, patience, not so much pressure, and then boom, pressure there, and that's what creates that surge of propulsion that moves her down the pool. So what's the challenge with improving breaststroke pull? Well, the first issue is that timing is really, really, really important in breaststroke. It's really precise, it's really fragile. And so if you're having swimmers experiment with different arm pulls, if you're having them experience with different levels of patience and aggression, different arm paths, it's going to disrupt the timing of the stroke. And when the timing of breaststroke is off, it feels terrible. And swimmers hate doing it. They do not like it. It's very distracting from what you're trying to accomplish if you're trying to improve the pull. And what happens is no matter how they change the pull, no matter how much more effective it is, it's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel good because the overall sensation is that the timing's off, and so the stroke as a whole feels really terrible. And that makes it difficult to improve the pull or the kick for that matter within the context of full stroke breaststroke, because doing so disrupts the rhythm and the timing, and it does so significantly so that everything tends to feel off. Another challenge of the breaststroke pull relative to the other strokes is that there's a lot of extra noise in the stroke relative to freestyle, relative to butterfly, and even relative to backstroke. The setup's going to be different. So when the hands are entering about shoulder width in fly or free, they're entering right in front of the face in breaststroke. And so there's that extra motion that needs to slide out in order to set up the stroke. And that change can make things a little bit more difficult because swimmers have to navigate that extra aspect of the pull. And then the transition after the pull is also different. In the other stroke, swimmers are pulling straight down to their hips. And then in breaststroke, they're transitioning from the shoulders to get the arms forward, to get them recovered forward. And that requires swimmers to change the path of the hands during that transition to the recovery and even before it, so it can be as smooth as possible while still maintaining some propulsion and some pressure on the water that moves them forward. And so that's a different skill that's going to be very different than what you see in the other strokes. And as a result, the pull itself is going to feel very different. It's going to feel like there's a lot more lateral motion, and that's because relative to the other strokes, there is a lot more lateral motion. However, a lot of it is about setting up the pull correctly and then transitioning out of the pull correctly. The pull itself is pretty similar, but because of that noise in the beginning of the pull, at the end of the pull, the overall perception of the pull is going to be very different. And what ends up happening is what feels wrong to swimmers is actually going to be right, and what feels right for swimmers is going to be wrong. And so swimmers have to learn how to change that perception when it comes to breaststroke swimming. Last issue is navigating the breath. If the breath timing is off, if the breath timing isn't quite right, if the breath itself is too high or too low, that can also impact the pull because the breath and the pull are happening at more or less the same time. So if there's a problem with the breath, that's going to influence the arm action. And if that influence is negative, well, then it's going to be more difficult to improve the pull because of the breath. So the breaststroke pull presents some pretty unique challenges relative to the other strokes. And these are challenges we have to overcome if we want to help swimmers improve their pull. So how do we do that? Well, we have to take the timing out of the equation. We have to help swimmers understand and feel what it's like to pull breaststroke effectively as opposed to the other strokes. And we have to navigate the challenge of the breath. And so we're going to use several different strategies here, some specific drills. We're going to use some specific activities that allow swimmers to explore their pull, and then we're going to challenge it in different ways with performance and resistance to help swimmers learn how to move more water and how to do so in a way that helps them swim faster. First up is side wall pull. And like we discussed earlier, the pull is more of a squeeze than a pull, and that's what it's going to feel like to swimmers because of that extra lateral motion. And so we have to help swimmers feel that. With side wall pull, what they're literally going to do is they're going to practice that squeezing position and that squeezing feeling in order to create more sensory awareness of what they're doing and what they have to do. It helps them learn how to use the whole arm, to use the hand and the forearm to create propulsion, and to learn what it feels like to squeeze into the body versus straight back. What I really like about this particular activity is that it's ultimately very practical. It can be done anytime, it can be done anywhere, and it's pretty much impossible for swimmers to mess up. And that means it tends to be pretty successful in helping swimmers understand what they need to do. So this is side wall pull. So they're going to be on the side, they're going to have their arm on the wall, and they're going to pull straight down, trying to squeeze the arm into the body. And so what they're doing is they're feeling how to create pressure on the hand and the forearm, and they're learning how to squeeze into the body versus just pulling back. To challenge it in a little bit different way, you can have them move the body up and down on the wall to kind of feel a little bit more of a dynamic squeeze, and you can just have them do it statically as well. The idea here is to let them feel that position and to feel that basic movement and feel what it's like to create pressure in that way. That allows them to get a good sense of what they need to accomplish when they actually execute the pull. Next up is sculling. And with breaststroke, there's a lot of directional change within the pull. And we want swimmers to be able to effectively manage those directional changes and move water over longer distances. And to do so, they have to manage pressure throughout those transitions. So as swimmers slide out and then into the setup of the stroke, they want to hold on to pressure and then build pressure as they start to execute the pull, and then hang on to that pressure as long as possible through the pull as they start to transition to the recovery. And sculling is really effective, not because we're trying to get swimmers to scull when they execute the breaststroke pull, but because sculling is a great way to manage pressure. So by going in and out and working those transitions, swimmers have to learn how to keep pressure as they go from out to in and in to out. And so you can work specific breaststroke positions, you can work general positions, you can work different hand speeds, you can work different body speeds. So fast hands, you can go really slow hands, you can be moving fast through the water, you can be not moving at all, it can be stationary sculling. There's lots of different options, and it's not so much, again, about building a breaststroke pull. It's about building the general ability to learn how to manage pressure and control pressure, and that's a skill that's required to effectively execute a breaststroke pull. In any sculling positions you like, any different types of sculling that you enjoy, you find effective, those are all fair game. They're all useful for this purpose. So here's one position that you can use. Again, trying to manage transitions, manage pressure as he goes from out to in and in to out. So same thing here, just a different position, and now the hands are out in front as opposed to facing down towards the bottom of the pool. Same concept, managing pressure through those transitions. Next strategy is to change the legs. So by removing the breaststroke kick, we remove the timing demands. Allows us to train the upper body without wrecking the stroke because swimmers can just focus on the pull and they don't have to worry about timing everything well. Secondly, it takes away the propulsion, or most of the propulsion that swimmers get from the legs, so now the arms have to do all the work. There's two big options here. One is you can use a dolphin kick, or you can use a flutter kick. The advantage of the dolphin kick is you got bigger range of rates. It's pretty easy to go at pretty slow rates, and it's also pretty easy to go at pretty fast rates. The other advantage is that it's more similar to regular breaststroke and that the rhythm is similar. There's more of a lunge to the recovery, and there's an undulation to the general pattern as swimmers move through the water. You can also use the flutter kick. It's more conducive to really high stroke rates, and that means you can have swimmers learn to practice and execute the pull with a lot more aggression, which can be really useful if you're helping swimmers learn how to hold water, how to have an effective pull at higher speeds. This is breast with dolphin kick here, and so you can see the legs are just kind of trailing behind. There's a little bit of a flick to the legs, but swimmers aren't breaststroke kicking. That allows him to keep working on moving forwards, and he's really got to pull effectively in order to move himself forward because he doesn't have the breaststroke kick to drive him forward. So now we got the flutter kick here, and you can see there's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive recovery, and once the pull goes, there's going to be more aggression to it because he's got to get everything forward. There's not going to be as much up and down motion. It's going to be a flatter stroke, and he's really focusing on getting through the pull a little bit more faster, recovering the arms faster, and transitioning through the back part of the pull faster in order to get back out in front and get everything moving forwards. Next strategy is to change the breath. And so by changing the head position, it alters what the pull feels like, and it alters what swimmers experience during the pull. The lower the head is, the more it's going to feel like swimmers are just pulling back, and the higher the head is, the more there will be an in-feel to the pull. And so it's not that one is better or worse. Both are effective because we do want swimmers to have a backwards pull. They need to move themselves forwards, and they need to feel the in part so that they don't get stuck and they optimize that transition to the recovery. And so by having swimmers breathe in different ways, we can help them figure out all the different aspects of the pull, and we can help them do so more effectively and faster. I like to use a lot of different head positions in order to help swimmers feel and find and figure out what's the best way to pull. And by having them explore and challenging them in different ways, it's a lot easier to do that. So you can go head up breaststroke, you can go head down breaststroke, you can go normal breaststroke, you can go alternating head up. So one stroke up, one stroke normal. You can go alternating down. So one stroke down, one stroke normal, or you can go head up and then no breath, head up and then no breath. They're all effective and they all help swimmers feel different aspects of the pull, and it helps them feel what's going to be most successful for them. So this is head up breaststroke, and for swimmers, it's going to feel very much like an in stroke. And of course, you can do this with the breaststroke kick, you can do this with the dolphin kick, or you can do this with a flutter kick. Very much, they're going to feel the inward aspect of the pull, and so when you want to exaggerate that, this is a great way to do that. In contrast, you can have swimmers pull with the head down, and it's going to feel them like the elbows in the pull is much more backwards in nature. And so again, that can be an aspect of the pull that you want to emphasize and you want swimmers to explore. And when that's the case, you can have them keep the head down and really focus on that part of the pull. Again, either with the dolphin kick, breaststroke kick, or a flutter kick. Next strategy is to add a pull or two to regular breaststroke. So to swim fast breaststroke, swimmers have to be able to pull and kick. So while taking the legs away allows swimmers to work on the skill of pulling, they also have to learn the skill of pulling while actually swimming while they have the kick in place as well. And so this strategy allows for the best of both worlds. You can continue to overload the pull because there's more pulls than kicks, but it also helps swimmers learn to transition how to fit their pull in to their full stroke swimming. If you want to work more on the pull itself, you just add more pulls per kicks. If you want swimmers to learn more about the specificity about how to actually pull when they swim, you just go fewer pulls per kick. Both are really effective, both are really great at helping swimmers learn both how to pull more effectively and how to integrate that pull into the swim more effectively. So this is 3 pulls, 1 kick. So as you can see, he's taking multiple pulls and then he adds in the kick. So 1, 2, and then 3. So as you can see here, the swimmer's kind of just dragging their legs. I usually let them use a light dolphin kick in order to keep the hips up, in order to keep everything moving. In any case, they're doing more pulls per kick, and then they've got to learn how to transition into the actual kicking stroke, and that's going to set them up to improve both the pull and how to use the pull during regular breaststroke. So same concept here, except now we've got 2 pulls per 1 kick. So 1 and then 2, and again, light dolphin kick is usually going to be effective here. If you really want to stress the arms, you can just have them do almost no kick, and that's going to really put more pressure on the upper body. Next up is the use of resistance, and that can be really powerful for 3 different reasons. First of all, it improves skill. And so swimmers have to create more propulsion, and they have to create more effective propulsion. They have to create more propulsion to move themselves forward, and if that propulsion is going down or to the side, that's not going to move them forward either. And so they have to create more propulsion, and they're encouraged to make sure that more of that propulsion is effective at moving them forward. It also provides great feedback. The extra resistance changes what swimmers feel, and they tend to feel a lot more pressure on the arms, and that allows them to feel when they're losing that pressure, when they're getting really good pressure, and it helps encourage them to figure out what's going to allow for the most pressure and allow them to move forward as effectively as possible. Better feedback, faster learning, and so the feedback is enhanced by using resistance as well. And of course, you need strength in order to execute a great breaststroke pull, and so by using resistance in the water, swimmers are going to get physical changes that allow them to develop strength faster because they have more specific resistance work in the water. And the more strength they can create in the water, the faster they can go because they're going to have better skills and they're going to have the strength to execute those skills at a really high level. Finally, with all of those strategies, regardless of which ones you use, I always suggest asking for performance. You can ask for speed, have them build, have them descend, have them just go fast. You can ask them to hit certain stroke counts, whether that's low, that's high, that's everything in between. You can ask them to hit certain stroke rates, whether that's low, that's high, and everything in between. And of course, you can combine that. Stroke counts with speed, stroke rates with speed, and challenge them to find higher levels of performance regardless of what strategy you're using, regardless of the drill. The only way they can do that is by learning to pull more effectively and learning to pull better. They can't go faster at the same stroke count by swimming more poorly. And so it's a great way to encourage swimmers to swim better and to swim with better skills And of course, they're going to be developing the fitness to actually sustain these skills and execute them at really high levels in races. And there's tons of different ways to make this happen. All it takes is a little creativity, and any training set is usually going to work towards this. And by using these different performance expectations, you can really challenge swimmers to improve their skills and to swim better. This first set is more skill oriented. They're going to go 3 rounds through. They're going to go 4 times, 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off of vertical sculling, and they're just going to have the arms up at the surface. The odds are big, slow sculls. The evens are small, fast sculls. They're just trying to maintain pressure throughout the entire time. Then they're going to go 825s breaststroke, take fewer strokes in pairs. The odds are with flutter kick. The evens are with dolphin kick. So regardless of the kick, they have to be more efficient. They have to get more out of each stroke. They got to get longer. And before each one of those repetitions, they're going to go 5 seconds of side wall pull with each arm. And that's going to allow them to feel that pressure on the arm, feel that squeeze before they do those repetitions. Then they're going 450s, 2 pulls, 1 kick. The odds are 25 alternating head up plus 25 alternating head down, and the evens are flipped. So by changing the breath, swimmers are going to have more awareness of that squeeze in and that squeeze back when they pull, and they're going to descend 1 to 4 at the same stroke count. And by doing that, we're encouraging them to get more out of each pull without sacrificing any speed. So lots of different technical challenges here, all geared towards helping swimmers learn how to hold more water, how to be more effective with the pull so that they can go faster in races. Next set has a little bit more of an endurance feel, so they're going to go 3 100s and 3 50s, 4 rounds. The 50s are always 25 2 pulls, 1 kick, 25 breaststroke, and they're going to descend 1 to 3 at the same stroke count. So we're going 2 pulls, 1 kick, overload the arms a little bit, and then swimming actual breaststroke. And each round, they're going to add a stroke, and they're going to go faster. To set those 50s up, we're going to go 3 100s pull, and it's always second 50 fewer strokes. And we're going to do those hundreds in a little bit different way each time. And by having swimmers take fewer strokes the second half, as they get a little bit more tired, they have to be really efficient. They have to move a lot of water. They have to be good with their skills the second half. First 3 are with a dolphin kick, and then we're going to alternate flutter kick and dolphin kick, and then we're going to alternate dolphin kick and 3 pulls, 1 kick, and then alternate dolphin kick and 2 pulls, 1 kick. So we're changing the challenge each time, but again, it's all about efficiency, and swimmers have to hold together the skills as they get tired, which is also going to help them build the fitness to execute those skills under pressure. Last set is more of a speed set. We're going to go 2 rounds through. They're going to go breaststroke with flutter kick. The first one is as fast as possible at 1.30 seconds per cycle. So with a tempo trainer, of course, adjust the stroke rate for your swimmer and for the context. The rate should be a little bit slower than what they would normally go for fast swimming. The idea here is for them to focus on getting as long as possible, because if they can't move their arms faster and they have to swim faster, the only way they can go faster is by getting longer. So on those odd ones, it's always with that stroke count restriction. The first ones we're going to go with flutter kick, and then dolphin kick, and then 2 pulls, 1 kick. And after that, they can move the arms as fast as they want, and they should be able to go faster than what they did with that controlled stroke count. And so those are all pull-based, so swimmers have to learn how to create speed, create length while they're pulling. And then with the 2 pulls, 1 kick, we'll add the breaststroke kick in while still working on the arms, and then we'll do the same thing with regular breaststroke, again, trying to get long and fast on the first one, and then just letting it rip going fast on number 2. To overload the upper body even more on that first round, they're going to be swimming against resistance, so they're going to get more feedback about how they're creating pressure, and they're going to have to be more effective at creating propulsion in order to move themselves forward down the pool. Pulling in breaststroke can be a challenging skill, but with the right strategies, we can help swimmers develop that skill and develop their fitness all at the same time. If you want to learn everything you need to know about effective breaststroke pulling and see Olympians execute those skills in action, check out the video below.